No niin, hyvää huomenta kaikille. Good morning, everyone. And we have Valtteri is present and the other Valtteri as well. So we are ready to begin this webinar. And today we have an interesting topic, stakeholder engagement and digital collaboration in project risk management. And we are looking the topic through a case of Skanska. So my name is Jokri Kaaja and I come from the Project Management Professionals Association Finland, and today the specialists are Valtteri Österman coming from Skanska Finland, presenting us the case, and then we have other Valtteri Franzi from Inclus, risk management and artificial intelligence specialist. I'm ready to give the stage to Valtteri Österman for the case Skanska presentation. So Valtteri, please, I'll stop the sharing and the stage is all yours.
Thank you. I open my presentation so we can start. So our topic today is the stakeholder engagement and digital collaboration in project risk management. And my name is Valtteri Österman. I have been working for Skanska for many years, but in 2020 I started working in our risk management team and focusing especially on project risk management in projects that are ongoing, and that's what we discussed today, is projects that are in where the building is already on. So that's our focus today. And shortly before we go to the topic more deeper, I'd like to tell a few words about Skanska as a company. So we are a construction company, but we are also development company, residential commercial development, and we have also machinery rental here in Finland. But Skanska is also international company. It's founded many years ago, so it's an old company, started in Sweden, but now we have operations in Nordics, Europe, and USA. 28,000 employees, which we have in Finland about 2,000. We have head office in Helsinki, but we operate in selected regions. And also we are in the latest polls, we are second most attractive employer in construction industry. And what we build is cozy homes and living environments, well-functioning infrastructure, and modern spaces for companies and entities. So this is shortly what is Skanska is a construction process we are discussing, and risk management in those construction projects today. And first is a bit of background or the bigger picture, what challenges are in large-scale project risk management. So I have been focusing mostly on the larger projects, which is, I think it's come more clear when we go more forward why more in the larger ones. But that is mostly the focus today. And the challenges in those are, firstly, we have a large project, we have a large number of risks and possibilities. We can have if you ask somebody can tell about some big hospital project, we have 3,000 different risks and 3,000 different risks and possibilities. And if you ask for example, in a hospital project, you ask for some expert, which is in some field, for example, hospital logistics, they can find many risks only in that field. So very large number of risk and possibilities. We had large number of stakeholders. We have typically we have a client, we have the constructor, we have the subcontractors, we have designers, we have users, we have operators. Very many different stakeholders in this one project. And this means very many individuals and participants. And when we have many stakeholders, we have from there we have a personal, we have individuals in the stakeholder, they have personal goals, what they want to achieve. We have also corporate goals, what that company wants to achieve. And we also have this one process we are all in. We have the project goal. So what we are having a challenge is to have a mutual goals or merge these goals that it serves personal, corporate, and project goals. And also we have a large project. We had a large number of risks, but the cost of, oh no, or oops, the accident happens, we have done some construction part with wrong material or whatever. It can be almost whatever. So the cost of that is in larger project. It's more greater the more bigger project we have. So the challenge is how to find the most significant risks and possibilities in this project. And this is when we have started to collaborate with Inclus to be more better in this. And does Valtteri from Inclus, the other Valtteri, want to say something about the challenges in large-scale projects?
Yeah, thanks, Valtteri. So let me also introduce myself. So my name is Valtteri Francia. I'm the head of customer success at Inclus, and I've had a pleasure to work with our customers in the Finnish market and in the international scene over the past 6 years and help them to succeed in the collaborative risk management. And I think you really nicely illustrated the challenges with the large number of risks and stakeholders, and reflects also to my understanding about the scene. Also, like one additional point, if I can add, what I found the most, or maybe one of the difficult things also with the risk management, how do you create a meaningful process around the risk management in this kind of settings, and how do you get people involved, and what is the sort of trade-off, that how much you ask them to spend time on that, and what is the benefit, and so on. And I think there are a lot of things to be considered if you want to like create a meaningful process, that you need to think about the sort of user friendliness and get the content and risks and goals right, and find the right level of participation, and also think about what's in there for the participants. But I don't know if you want to reflect on this, or like creating a meaningful process around the risk management, considering the type of stakeholders. Especially you mentioned that you've been working especially in the construction phase, and for instance, in these hospital projects. So do you want to elaborate a little bit more on the sort of type of stakeholders and what they will get out of the process, and how do you see the sort of this collaborative process is able to manage the sort of diversity of the perspectives, like goals and expertise and focus and these types of things.
Yeah, good point. We go through the way of working with Skanska in further in the presentation, but one point was that how to get the people involved. You have to get the buy-in, and it's people are different. Somebody is very, when there is something new way of working, somebody is very eager to learn how this works and want to participate. But I have also found that construction business is a bit old-fashioned. So we are more we like more very concrete hammer and nails. What to build with those? It's sometimes it has been a challenge to get the buy-in, but what I have found that have helped the construction, the contractors especially, to get involved, to participate, is that our clients are very eager to have this, because when there is smaller amount of risk, it means the more healthier project. So that's one way. And also we have had where we had this process on longer use, and when we have found that this risk, we did the actions, we saw those actions work, it has been a good reputation for this way of working. But yeah, the buy-in, it's a tough one part of the process.
Yeah, and I think in my understanding and experience also, like proper tools can be quite useful in that sense. So I felt like that quite often when I do a workshops with the clients, and I guess it's a combination of the tool and combination of the facilitation and how you apply the tools in practice with the people you have in hand. But quite often you get this kind of wow effect still, that like with the quite simple visualization techniques, you are able to give this kind of impression to the participants that they actually understand quite efficiently in a very short time much more than they did before they came to the workshop. I think that's part of the process to sort of get the sort of insights before you start engaging with the participant. I recall one client from the mining sector, for instance, mentioned after the workshop, like he felt that 15 minutes, the time that they spent together, like covered the same amount of risks that normally would take like a couple of days even. So I think there is really difference in how you sort of engage with the difference and what kind of tools you use. And I, considering the number of stakeholders, for instance, because in the hospital project that you'll be working, am I right that when you engage with the customers and users and so on, so you have 2-hour workshop, it's quite valuable time, right? So
yeah,
so when I ensure that you spend the time right together. So
yeah, if we get the nurses and the doctors for half an hour time, it's you have to make the most of it, and we have seen that this is one way to make the most of the time we have to use. Yeah, but should we go to the Skanska way of working? Yes. And so we started to discuss a bit already how we work now, but just to reflect that this is very harsh example, and it's not always like that. But in the past, risk evaluation is done by project manager just before reporting, just on the last hour. It's his or her thoughts on that time, what comes up to mind, and it's not it's one person opinion what we have risk and how big are those and what we're going to do about those. So that's past, and what we discussed today, we want to engage the stakeholders to continual risk evaluation and management. And we have used this in our project for we have started I think a first project with Inclus was in Lahti. We built this this highway Valtari was I don't even know how many years ago. I wasn't part of that, but when I came to the risk management team, I started with Ous Hospital, which is a hospital in Oulu, and continued from there to Assi Hospital, which is hospital in Hämeenlinna, which is this picture above is Assi from Hämeenlinna, that is ongoing project. And those are, we have had Inclus in there in a continual use, but both projects a bit different, but it has been a continual. But we have also we have many other large scale projects in Skanska portfolio in Finland. For example, our one national symbol, Finlandia Hall in center of Helsinki. And this is one project we have created a workshop concept, which when we don't have the continual project, it's for example in Assi, we update the risk evaluation once a month. So that's a very tight pace to update the evaluation in that big of project, because there the status is so large. But when we have a project like this Finlandia Hall, we have once a quarter or once a half year this workshop concept where we evaluate and mitigate or do the action plans to mitigate the risks. So we have a bit different concepts, but what I go on the next slide is the process, and this is mostly the same, or is the same in if you are on a continual use or use this as a workshop, as a process in a project. So the process, how we work, is first we have this funnel, and on top of it you can like pour risks and possibilities, and the crucial part is to identify those. And that's because when you don't identify, it happens, what I said in the previous slide is the cost of oh no. So when you don't identify, you can do any actions or you can evaluate and the accident happen. But so the crucial part is how we can identify, and that's why we have individual participations. For example, we have different stakeholders. We decide who to participate from those stakeholders, and everyone have individual participation. And this is part where we want to brainstorm all possible risks and possibilities. Here is no stupid ideas, and here is no like dumb. There is no dumb questions, no dumb risk and possibilities you can give here as an idea, because they can vary a lot. And I think that when we can have the buy-in, the brainstorming, because what earlier phase we identify the risk, the more better we can be with the actions. And that is very crucial part. And this is done with Inclus and individual participation. In a few moments when I have gone through the process, Valtteri will show in Inclus how this really goes in the software. But when we have identified, we can identify like 100 risks. Then we evaluate. This is also done with Inclus and also individual. We can have, for example, we have a workshop in 2 weeks. We have 1 week for identification and 1 week for evaluation, and everyone can do this individual. And our typical evaluation is we have effect, for example 1 to 5, what effect or how great effect this risk when it actualizes in this project, how great effect does it have Also, we have a probability for this risk. For example, 1 to 5, how probably this risk will actualize. So that's our two meters we usually have, but it can vary in Inclus too. It can be also, we have a project where we have when we have had so clear risk, we have evaluate the cost effect on those. That's also can be done. So it's not it doesn't have to be probability and effect. But from this evaluation phase, the goal is to get the most significant risk, because when you had 50 people that have identified 100 risks, then you evaluate them. You have from 100 risk evaluation those same 50 people, and from those 50 people mutual answers, you can find that here is the 20 most significant, and focus the actions, the last part, on those. So the last part is to do the action plan for the most significant risk together. We do it in a workshop, but it can be done different ways, of course, but that's done. That's not in our working. It's not done in Inclus. It's done in a workshop. We facilitate the workshop where we go through, but it's a much time-wise if we go to workshop to go through the actions. We have already the risks, what we do the actions. For example, the old way is that we have workshops where we identify, evaluate, and do the actions. It's not on the same time. We have a lot different outcome. But does other Valtteri wants to show how it works on Inclus?
Yeah, of course. So for those who are not maybe that familiar with the platform, so let me just quickly walk you through the demo in 5 minutes or so. Just give me a sec. Suppose it is this one. So I suppose you can see my screen at the moment. So basically, it's an online platform, and how the user flow and the sort of user experience works is that most users who participate in the risk management process run through Inclus, the collaborative platform, are not required to actually have user rights to the tool. So participation happens via email invitation. So you will be invited with your project manager's name and their invitations that they share with you, and then you will get a link to different sequences of the work. And the first sequence is the risk identification. So this is just one example. We have a lot of different templates for different application areas. You are free to edit your own. You can have less content on the risk identification if you want to follow like some kind of group policies, what kind of risks should be always identified. You can use AI to support identification. Again, there's a lot of flexibility how you want to do this in practice, but basically you access the online platform, you select who you are, you can do this with name or without name, and then you have set of existing risks that are provided to you by the project manager or by the other participants who've been already accessing the page. And basically you do risk identification to different categories, and there are 3 functionalities in the first sequence. So basically you can add new risk suggestions like project related risks. You can see some existing topics already here. You can flag and vote that in your opinion they are important and they should be captured in the risk evaluation, and they should be analyzed much further. And then you can also comment and provide the contextual information. So especially if we start from the more generic risk register that is being provided to all projects, for instance, then it's quite useful to contextualize the information. Quite many of our clients also like to work in a way that instead of like risk categories, there are only maybe specific objectives provided as categories, and then you can start really thinking about the uncertainties and risks and opportunities starting from the actual objectives. But this is the first sequence, so risk identification. So you add suggestions, you vote existing suggestions, and you comment, and all data is shared between all participants in real time, so you can get this collaborative aspect. And you can do this online before the workshop, or even in the workshop setting if you want to get some independent working time for the experts first, and then maybe discuss the suggestions. In the second sequence, you're again invited via the tool, so you will get invitation to your inbox. You click the link and you access the evaluation part, and then you can see the existing risks with their descriptions and additional information and whatnot. So all this can be customized. What kind of data fields you have available here. You have also opportunity to see the sort of existing risk mitigation actions and their statuses as a part of the evaluation, if you will. As an example, there is a quite standard way, so sort of negative impact likelihood opportunities assessment, both quantitative and qualitative review, so you are able to explain your thinking and provide your comments and justifications, which really adds the sort of intelligence to the process as well. So it's not just like guess that maybe this is a tree, or you can really provide the arguments. And then as a part of the evaluation, you can also suggest risk mitigation actions. So how should we act upon this, which again speeds up the process. So quite often this is done online before the workshop. Again, there are differences between the customers, how they like to apply this, but this is how it works. And then in real time you get the visualizations in. So what Valtteri also mentioned, that with these visualizations you are able to find the priority areas. So there are some smart features already suggesting that these are maybe the risk or priority areas for you. So this is doing automatic data clustering based on the sort of big impact and likely topics. You can review risks with name or without names. You can look at them category by category if you want. You can also sort of dive deeper into risks. So there are also analysis features that suggest topics for you, which are the most controversial topics in or among your participants. So this highlights the sort of risks where you have the most variation in answers, and as a dots here you can see the different members of the project team or the sort of broader stakeholder groups, and you can review their comments and really facilitate the discussion. So when you come to the risk workshop, you can highlight that, okay, there were actually a couple of things where we have quite different opinions. So let's have the talk and stop, pause for this risk and discuss what we will think about it.
Can I give one comment? For example, here in the ASSI hospital project, we have agreed that we have this. There was this own process for us. We have our own risk management group, which is 10 persons from different part stakeholders of the alliance, and there we have agreed that from these evaluations we have to do actions plans to the risks that are in the red fields, the likely large impact, and on the brown squares we have agreed that the risks that are those fields we follow up, and in the green field are risks that we stop following up, and if those sub issues come up again, they have to come up as new issues. So we have that's how we when I have the funnel and how to do the actions for the right risks, we have in that process, for example, have this kind of agreement how to work with.
Yeah, thanks for sharing, Valtteri. I think it's good comment, and there is a support for the risk classification as well, so you can sort of say that which ones are your priority areas, let's say top risks, or the ones that require immediate controls, and then you can use this information in the visualizations, but also to actually guide the process from this moment on. So you could also set up some filters for the questionnaires when you have automatized the risk reviews, that only the ones that you have marked as a top risks, they will be reviewed again in a month or so. So it helps you to also focus on the sort of most important stuff, if you will. I will highlight like one more option, so you can sort of review how the different participant groups like design or external stakeholders or customers or whatnot have been assessing the risk. So you can really dive deeper into different stakeholders and sort of see the priorities between the stakeholder groups. I promised to say a few words about the AI as well. So about the existing AI functionality. So you can, at the moment in the Inclus platform, you can use it in 3 ways. You can use AI, and when I say about AI, I refer to language models, basically ChatGPT that is running on Microsoft servers and following their data protection clauses and so on. But basically, you can use the language models and AI to identify new risks based on the prompt and the risks that you have already identified. So again, there is not just the language model part, but there is a part of the collaborative process. And I think that is very unique and interesting mix, that you have the collaborative part, but you have also the language model. So that is the first part. So if I just highlight, this is from the sort of project admin view, for instance. Basically, you are as a user, you are able to write your own prompt here to the language model. And this is just an imaginary example that we're asking from AI, that imagine you're an experienced project manager. This project deals with the risk management of the hospital construction project in North America. Goal is to identify risks that can hamper delivery of the product or cause project to fail from commercial quality or any other perspective, just as an example. So you can be really creative with these prompts, and more information you provide, the better output you will get. And then here, second and third parts of the prompt are the sort of risk categories and the existing risks in the category. So I can ask AI to suggest additional risks to project-related risks that will already consider the actual suggestions given maybe by the other participants in the project. And then I will be getting, like with this prompt, I will be getting outputs like budget overruns, contractor default, site safety incidents, design errors, and so on. Just another way to apply the tool, you can be using this in iterative fashion, so you can dive deeper into specific topics. So if you want to focus, let's say, on a specific part, like let's say risks related to architecture specifically, I mean, then you can just ask AI to generate sort of first suggestions for that category. And again, more detail you are, the better output you will be get. So AI functions as well as you're able to ask questions. So just as an example, what kind of outputs we will be getting out of the architecture. And meanwhile, the AI is thinking or assigning probabilities. I can say that this is running on GPT 3.5 and GPT-4 in the actual production servers. But yeah, suggestions like inadequate design, structural failures, inefficient space utilization, poor integration of systems. So out of curiosity, Valtteri, do you see anything familiar?
Yeah, those are familiar, and we haven't in Skanska used this in a real project, at least yet. But I have demoed this, but my take is that that this AI gives good, like it gives good issues or subject, but it's not. You have to go through this in the project, get it more detailed to that project, because inadequate design, it can happen any project, but we should in a hospital project know if it's the most risk, is it in a hospital logistics, or is it in the frame design, or in what design. So we have to get more deeper than this, but it gives a start.
Yeah, and again, the more specific you are, then the better or more detailed output it will be. But I guess there is some kind of threshold or limitation. So if you start from very, very specific technical things in your project,
yeah. I think that's like could you say like a checklist to think more detailed risks around these subjects. So that's what's the benefit in that.
Yeah, and I think that's interesting because I see that a lot of companies have sort of maybe not necessarily maybe that much in the construction side, but also in sort of industrial project side. I mean, there are a lot of company checklists that these are the things that you need to go through, and it can be quite heavy. I mean, if you have like almost 200 risks and you need just a project manager just review it. So I think just a AI could be a little bit more playful way to also maybe achieve the same thing. So provide that to the project manager.
Yeah, I personally think that we should let people to brainstorm ideas freely, and then we could use AI or checklist to check have we get all the points, because if we go through checklist wise, or we go through checklist, we're like a racehorse on the track. We don't see the surroundings, so we can forget something. That's why I think it's better to first do it more. Everybody can think their own and then use a checklist or AI or check the whole thing.
Yeah, precisely. So two other functionalities I wanted to mention here regarding the AI. Other part is the actual identification of the risk mitigation actions, and it basically functions in the same fashion as this. So you have the prompt, you have the risk description, you have the existing risk mitigation actions that you have already defined with your responsible people, and then AI just generates more suggestions of what kind of activities you should do in that regard. For the sake of time, I will not go into that, but focus on the third one, which is the summary part. So when you do the sort of qualitative assessment of the risk, you collect a lot of insights and inputs and sort of more comments about the risk. So there are AI functionalities that will help you to actually summarize the comment part also. So you can do this basically out of all project risks or out of each risk category within the project, you are able to actually get AI summaries. So for the sake of demo, there is a limitation of the characters at the moment, but I will demo it just for the one risk. Here, I don't ask you to actually focus on too much on the content, as the content is actually simulated by the AI and then it's summarized by the AI. So it's not the best example, but we've been quite successfully using this in several instances already. So if you start thinking about that, you have like, I don't know, 15 to 20 comments for each risk and multiplied by the number of risks and so on. So it's a lot of data. It's really, really a lot of data. So I think the sort of language models are quite efficient in summarizing the data. So at the moment, we have already quite a few different ways to summarize the data. So you can get executive summaries, which basically takes the most repeated topics and most repeated concerns across the risk, for instance, to the project manager. Then we have more like list of observations and suggestions. And then we have even implemented risk scenarios. So you are actually, I think not necessarily in the project context, maybe the most useful, but especially if you think about the more broadly about how to approach the risk management in the enterprises, for instance, then I mean, you can get really scary and creative risk scenario out of the comments that your participants have provided. So what is the direction that your company or project is going? So, and there are possibilities to write your own prompts and actually search for specific data. And again, that's in the comments. So it's not just a generic search over the internet, but the inputs that participants have provided. So I think this is, and again, if thinking about more broadly than within a single project, think about even the project portfolio. I mean, I see this is a huge opportunity for the project companies to think about in future. But these are the sort of existing features at the moment, and I guess from now on we can move on.
Yes, I have one slide left before the questions. It's my takeaways from strength and improvements in this our way of working, and the strength is clearly the stakeholder engagement and also the mutual understanding. They are a bit hand in hand, but for example, we have this workshop where it's very typical that there is client, participants, contractors, few designers. That's very, very typical. And when we go there through the evaluation, we see that, for example, that client have evaluate that risk for like if we have a hospital project, that the risk that any damage, noise, whatever that the construction work can do for surrounding areas. For example, we build a hospital next to the old hospital. If we do some damage for the old hospital, the client that's their top risk. So the contractor can be like, okay, so that's important for them. So we get a mutual understanding that what's important for different stakeholders and different participants. And when they have got to give their mutual evaluation and ideas, what are the risks, they mutually engage this subject and do the action plan. But the room for improvement from my hand is that we are quite good to this identification, evaluation, and also do the action plan. But too often we have these cases that this action plan stays in the workshops. So that's what I see, that we could be better, that we follow up, or if Inclus could help us to follow up. We have had this like notifications that remember to do this, but it's not it's not as, I think the engagement a little bit stops, or it's too heavy. I have also found that the risks to do the action plan is too hard, too heavy. Then we should do the risk in a smaller pieces or whatever. But here I see the room for improvement, that we have the follow-up action plans to mitigate the risks more better. Do you have Inclus, Valtteri, something to add, or do we go to the Q&A?
I think that's a great comment, and I definitely seen the same, and I think that's maybe one of the difficult parts also, to really change the behavior in the mitigation part. But I think the issue is also that like things tend to be under documented, and like whatever tool you are using Monday or what else, then people are not always like saying in the same level of detail that we would like them to say that what they are actually doing. Then I think quite useful way to do it is that when you do risk review, that you have the selected number of topics that you've already decided that these are the ones that we want to review, and then in a higher level you ask about the sort of progress. Is the level of controls that we agreed already a month ago or week ago, like how well we are at the moment dealing it? It means that it's a lighter format, but basically you are like one level higher in the abstraction and asking that, okay, are we doing this well enough, and so on. And then you can ask like comments. I think it's a different approach, but it somehow tries to sort of mediate also the issue with the sort of things tend to be under documented. But yeah, with Inclus you can do basically both. And also one interesting comment I got from another client is that like they use the word team alignment. So I think that's a great comment, also reflecting the fact that when you facilitated the discussion via the visualizations and you made the sort of different opinions and priorities visible for the participants, it's not always in the tool where it's visible. It might be that something is happening in their head, and then it's somehow in other ways manifested in their daily work. Of course, we don't want to be just guessing that, but I think we have quite strong indication that people tend to think in different fashion and tend to approach in different way the risks than they did before they had the sort of engagement with their colleagues and the discussion. I think it makes sense. If you ask from people questions and they think them through, it makes them to some degree at least, hopefully behave in different fashion.
Yes, but I think here is the presentation part. Should we go, Joksi, to the Q&A?
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much for the presentation. And we have some questions as well. So there is a question about so-called black swans. And this goes probably to the Skanska part. So could you describe how you manage / mitigate risks that have very low probability but have the greatest impact on the business?
Okay, that's a good question, because we can have in construction process the risk that probability is low, but the impact is it can be catastrophic if we, for example, talk about safety, work safety, and there can be the catastrophic risk can be what is comes to working person's health and in the worst case life. And I think in this risk, when we have a low probability but a high impact, those are usually some risks that our company policies tackle a lot. For example, the work safety. We have a lot of work safety, how we process. It's very strict, and what you wear, and I think it comes a lot of those. But yeah, it's not. We don't have a particular process for this, like black swans. I think it's I think they're usually they point out for the greater mass if we have this kind of issues, and we can discuss it issue per issue.
Would it be more like crisis management than risk management in the case when
when it happens? Yes, when it happens. But yeah, I hope this answered.
Yeah, tricky question, this black swans risks. So then another question for Inclus side is, when Inclus RE is starting to read the assessment figures and understand the relevance of each risk through that?
Thanks for the question. That's a great addition, and I don't have exact roadmap that for that at the moment. We are looking to add it quite soon. It's on top of the sort of suggestions that we are considering for the AI. However, I want to mention that it's not the only thing that we are thinking about in the application of AI, and we just released, I think it was a week ago, the sort of ability to do the custom prompts and so on, so and write scenarios. So there's the field is evolving quite rapidly, and basically in each release we are doing something regarding the AI. Just to want to highlight a couple other quite interesting areas. I think including the actual assessment data as AI, I think to some degree there is a way to already link it with the comments. Goes quite technical to sort of how you set it up, but when you have the actually comments as a part of the prompt, the sort of risk value and the sort of there is a way to include the risk value in the sort of in the setting. So this is an answer to the question which has the sort of some reference to the value. However, other stuff that we are considering in doing regarding the AI, I think there are a lot of opportunities to sort of use the language models to actually unify the risk taxonomy. So when you do a collaborative process, you always have the sort of what is a cause and what is a consequence and what is really a risk, and these kind of distinctions that some companies care more about than the others, and that's completely fine. But I think language models are quite lucrative for that sense as well. I think there are a lot of opportunities to also provide sort of centralized risk and control libraries that you have centrally in your project or company defined that these are the typical risks that we have experienced across the projects, and these are typical, quite well-validated responses to those risks. And when people do participatory or collaborative risk identification, AI can be used to match that suggestion of the participant with the existing centralized risk and control library. And we do have already examples of that where you can use the AI to sort of provide the output to the participant in a little bit from the different angle. And third part that we are thinking about regarding the AI, which is quite interesting, is the prediction part. So if you think about the collaborative process and any data points that you have around the collaborative process, whether it's a level of engagement, whether it's the actual qualitative comments about the risk or actual rating of the risks, and you basically have the risk profile of the project. And then if you would have realization data and metrics for the risks, so how those have been actually then played out in your project. And I think that's a quite interesting way to think about the sort of how you can actually predict even the success of the project when you compare the risk profile and with the realization metrics and so on. Of course, it's an issue to sort of a challenge to find the data points and so on, but I think that's something for all of us to think. And then you can add like project segmentation and whatnot in the analysis. But field is evolving so rapidly, I don't see any reasons why these things wouldn't actually realize in coming years.
Okay, then one new question. What are the practical ways to link risk management and strategy development?
Tricky again. I think I'm not sure if we're talking about company strategies or project strategies, but my point is, or what I could give here from project-wise is that that risk management can be, for example, again, these hospital alliances. I can see that we have their goals, what we talk about. We have project goals, and we have some strategy to follow those or to reach those goals. And to that strategy to reach those goals, we have taken subjects to the risk management, to risk evaluations, that what we see as a risk to achieve these goals. So I think that's what I can give the strategy link to evaluate the risk that dangers to this strategy to go forward and to follow those or to reach those goals.
Okay, then I have one.
Can I Jouko, add one
yes,
point?
Please.
Question? So to my understanding, I think you can link it in a bit different ways. So you can do, for instance, mission environment scanning if you want, in order to prepare strategy. So how is the world around us? How is it changing? How rapidly markets, competition, geopolitics, whatnot, and think about what is your attitude towards those uncertainties and what you want to achieve and what kind of risks you want to take. But then I think to some degree you can also think about in strategy implementation and execution, what are the uncertainties there and so on. I think there are several aspects in there. Great question.
Yes, and then we are soon running to the end of the webinar time. So I have one pretty personal question for each of you. So AI is everyone is speaking about it. So how do you yourself use it in a daily work? What applications? How often? How much? Let's start with Inclus.
Daily.
Daily. What's your very private artificial intelligence relationship?
I don't know what do you mean relationship, but I think I use it all the time with our customers and think about the different ways to apply it, and I'm in quite intensive trial and error loop, and where we constantly learn about what kind of prompts, and I do have also hilarious examples to share with you, sort of about the outputs that you might get that time. So looking forward to engage with any of you with these conversations.
So you have ChatGPT window open in your screen all the time, or something similar?
I do use it that as well, but primarily the sort of Inclus parts and so on.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then how about Skanska?
I use it ChatGPT about weekly, could it be? I use it like checklist wise and to see if I can also have taken every point of view notice in some issues, but mostly I use it as an engineer. I use it as a Microsoft Excel handbook, guidebook, how to do the different things in Excel. So that's one thing, but yeah, about weekly.
So do you have any common guidelines in Skanska for the artificial intelligence use?
Sorry, what do you mean?
Any guidelines company-wise how to use artificial intelligence in your daily work?
Yeah, we have our own guidelines, especially considering cyber safety, how to use it. We have, but we don't have a use it or guidelines how to use it like process-wise or in a construction process. It's not in that point yet that it could.
Okay.
Or we could, for example, in the future, we could, for example, use it doing some work planning. We could use AI to provide information and checklist, but now it's more not guidelines when to use it, but we have cyber safety wise how to use it guidelines.
Yeah, it is a great topic for a new webinar, maybe even more than one webinar, and that will happen in the coming months in our webinars as well. So it's 11 o'clock now, so I have to say thank you and thank you all participants, and let's go to the next meetings, etc. So thank you and goodbye, everyone.